Welcome to Beanstalk Mums podcast. Here at Beanstalk Mums, we believe that every mum is a powerhouse of potential and strength. Our mission is to uplift, empower and support single mums on their incredible journey. Each episode is packed with inspiring stories, practical advice and expert insights tailored to help you tackle the unique challenges and triumphs of single motherhood. Join a vibrant community as we delve into topics that matter to you most, from financial independence and career growth to self-care and parenting tips. At Beanstalk Mums, we understand that your journey is as unique as you are, and we are here to provide a warm, welcoming space where you can find the encouragement and resources you need. So tune in regularly and become a part of a network that celebrates your resilience, wisdom, and unwavering dedication. Together we can turn every challenge into an opportunity and every moment into a stepping stone towards a brighter future. Welcome to Beanstalk Mums, where your story is our inspiration. Welcome back to Beanstalk Mums podcast, where we chat about all things single motherhood, the real, the raw, and the downright inspiring. This month, we're diving into growing your tribe and strengthening connections. And today, we have an exciting topic that blends financial empowerment with community living. And if you've ever dreamed of owning a home but felt like it was just out of reach as a single mum, this episode is for you. We're talking about mommunes, a growing trend where single mums team up to buy and live together, creating a supportive and affordable way to own property while raising kids in a shared, nurturing environment. Joining me today is an incredible Sarah McLaughlin from Liberty Loans, an expert in mortgage solutions who has helped many people, including single mums, turn homeownership dreams into reality. She's also a trusted advisor in a Single Mum Vine Facebook group, where she's available weekly to answer questions for our members and provide guidance. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. Really happy to be here.
We are really pleased to have you here too. And what a awesome topic to bring you in on. I can't wait to pick your brain a bit about this idea of, shared housing and shared loans.
Definitely.
But let's start with the basics. So have you come across the concept of a mommune before?
I actually hadn't before, but I've done some research into it since we talked about it, and it's definitely interesting. And if it does work for the people involved, it is a great option. And they say that it takes a village. So yeah, definitely great option.
Absolutely true. And so for those of our listeners to that don't know, a mommune is essentially a shared living arrangement where single mums come together to co-own or co-rent a home. And it is a fantastic way, I think, to pool resources, share expenses, and create that built-in support system for raising kids, which is, dealing not only with the cost of living, but also this is a way of sort of counteracting that isolation that many single mums may feel. From a financial perspective, though, why do you think this idea might be gaining traction?
I think definitely the cost of living is somewhere to start. I mean, doing your groceries could have been $80 a week and now it's over 200. So that's definitely a big factor. Also, not just the financial perspective, but I guess having two people in the house to raise your kids is, just great. I mean, it's definitely not needed and single mums can do it by themselves, but any help you can get is, I'm sure really appreciated.
Absolutely. And just that companionship, isn't it? It doesn't have to be that lovely to have a nucleus, mum and dad. But when things unfortunately go pear-shaped, or fortunately for some, just having that someone else as a sounding board or someone else to kind of share the day with is really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
And as you mentioned, pooling of those resources, but how can you actually make it work? I was sort of thinking about that the other day, but what would be some of the common ways mum could structure a shared home ownership?
So the banks have two different ways that they can do it. The first is offered at the moment only by Commonwealth Bank, and it's called a shared equity loan. So basically, it means that if one applicant could only afford a certain portion of the loan and another applicant could afford a larger portion, you only need to show you can pay for that portion of the loan, which is really great. So, for instance, if I could pay for 100,000 and my friend could pay for 400,000, we can split the loan like that and both have ownership in the home. It's really important with this option, though, to get legal advice just to make sure that if anything happened or you need to sell the home down the track, that, the ownership is all sorted out that way. The second option is fairly similar, although it means that you're responsible for the whole debt. So
Mm-hmm.
if your friend couldn't pay for their portion of the debt, it means that you would be responsible for that. So it would show in your credit report also. But definitely something to take into consideration. But yeah, both are still good options.
Absolutely. And I'd love to touch a bit more on that trust and, the conditions a little bit down the track. But potentially before I even explore that, what do you think might stop mums in the first place? You've mentioned only one bank currently deals with this or provides such service. Are there any potentially misconceptions or myths that might stop single mums from even thinking about home ownership in any way?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest is that you can't do it. It is definitely harder with a single income and having dependents on the loan, but you definitely can. Or if you can't do it right now, there's definitely things to put in place to work towards it, which is the thing that you should see a broker about. So, looking at your borrowing capacity is a great place to start, and it's cost free. So, even if we find that you can't afford it right now, then yeah, there's definitely ways we can let you know how much savings you need, or if you can look at having one of your parents go guarantor on the loan. There's different options we can look at. So it's just not a no full stop, it's a no, but this is how we look at it down the track.
Fantastic. So it's not so much this blanket rule of, once you're a single mum now, you can just cross off this home ownership dream off your
Yes.
list. It's exploring the options, but doing
Yeah,
it through an
definitely.
educated way.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so let's talk numbers. How does borrowing power change when mums go, you mentioned on a single paycheck with dependents. How does that impact the borrowing numbers?
So I've got an example here ready to go. It's a little bit boring with the numbers, but stay with me on that one.
Sure.
Um, so I've got if a single mum was earning about 70,000 a year plus FTB plus child support, the max a bank would lend would be about 400,000,
Mhm.
which for getting into a home these days would be a little bit hard. You could find maybe a smaller unit for that price. If you were to look at it with two single mums, two
Mhm.
dependents, both earning around the same income, that would increase the loan to 800,000. So it almost doubles. Now, there will be some factors in there, like if you've got personal loans and credit cards that do affect that. But again, that's where you talk to your broker and just we can tell you basically the difference between both. We can look at your income, your friend's income, and then together, and then you can look at all three options and see what's best for you.
That would be amazing. It's almost that's yeah, it's doubled. It
Yeah.
it brings on, I wonder, you've mentioned again before the Commonwealth Bank being one of the banks that will consider that. So therefore, even coming to you, actually no, scrape all that. What I'm trying to think of is if two mums join forces and there's only one bank at the moment, like how common is it? How possible is this? You as
So
a broker have got access to all these different banks, but they won't necessarily allow that.
So the Commonwealth Bank will look at the first option where you're only responsible for your portion of the debt. Most lenders will look at the second option where you need to show, sort of as not a couple, but as the couple of people that are going on the loan, that you can service the whole debt. It just means the second option, there's a little bit more risk in terms of if the other person can't pay their portion of the debt, then you need to be ready to either pay for it or sell the property and things like that. So we do have a lot of other lenders that will look at it, but there's just a little bit more risk involved
I see.
with
So
that
there are
second option.
options.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand that now. And that I suppose would make it a little bit easier. And this is where that trust coming in being a big factor. Um, and potentially we all know we have these wonderful relationships and friends. And one advice I was given from a very young age, you never do business with a mate.
Yes. Yeah.
Friends are friends, but you never, anything financial, you just don't do that because,
Yes.
especially if you value that friendship.
Yeah.
And one can see how, when financially push comes to shove, when we kind of start to, self-preservation kicks in and it's a little bit hard. So Are there any legal or financial safeguards that the banks bring in, or, that potentially the mums should consider to have in place before committing to a shared loan?
Definitely. So I would say the first place to start is finding out the borrowing capacity, which would be going to your broker. Once you've got the numbers in place, then it would be the good point to go and see a solicitor. So there'll be a number of things that they look at, such as if one person has the whole deposit to put in and the other person doesn't, you'd look at when you sell the property, the person who had the deposit will obviously get more of the sale. If one person can service more of the loan, then it will sort of be the same thing. If they've paid off more of the loan, they'll get more of the sale. It's just those things so they can draw up once we've got the loan sort of structure in place before we submit an application. That's a good point to see your solicitor so they can draw that up and this is where we stand. But it is important to just think of friendships can break down just the same as a relationship, but it is a great option, but I think it's best to explore buying the house on your own first. If it's not an option, then it definitely is an avenue to go down. But yeah, it's just safeguarding yourself with the legal things is definitely important before you proceed with the full application.
Absolutely. That makes complete sense. And do the banks put anything in, they love their fine print. Do they put in anything extra, any extra clauses in such arrangements?
No, not in these sort of arrangements. So with the fine print, it's good now. So most banks, they're all DocuSign or e-sign documents that you receive. So they come straight to your email. It's no sitting there with someone from the bank in front of you and you don't have time to
With the
go over it
pen poised to
yourself.
sign my
Yeah.
life away.
So they all come to your email when you're at home and you've got time to read through them thoroughly and make sure you're happy with everything.
Mhm.
Um, and you can also send these documents either to your broker or to your solicitor and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. Can you look over this before I sign it? Which is always a good thing to do anyway, even if it's not, buying a house with your friend. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I guess you would get, I'm just thinking some mums would go, oh, that's an additional cost of getting a solicitor. But I suppose you have to get a conveyancer, which is a form of a solicitor anyway. That conveyancer would not be the one that would look over the fine print or, potentially advise in regards of things going pear-shaped down the track. You would have to get a different types of solicitor, do you think?
I believe it will depend on what the solicitor specializes in. So there's some solicitors' offices where they do everything, but they might have one person for this, one person for that. That would be the ideal situation if you had two in the one office. The fees might be lower, but that would be something that we could help source. We do have a few solicitors that we work with closely. So it would be a question I could ask or your broker could ask upfront and just say, this is what they're looking to do. Will the fees blow out or could you give us a rough idea up front before you're hit with this massive, massive bill at the end of it?
Great. So you're like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, try to be, definitely try to be.
No, that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Um, that's great. I love these platforms and I love businesses that you can sort of come in and speak to one person and just have everything sorted. They're from A to Z and you're being looked after because one of the things that I really dislike and many people do too, you bring your case to one person, they're like, oh, we've just got to put you to another
Yeah.
member of the team or another thing out there and you got to go explain everything all over again and then by
Yeah.
the time you've finished you've spoken to like 10 different people, you don't know what's going on, you don't know who's doing what, so and it just normally throw hands in the air and just go, no, this is too hard. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing that you guys provide that
We
rounded service.
definitely try to be the one point of contact and contact people on their behalf if we can. There'll be some instances where we can't, but yeah, we definitely try to be.
You mentioned before that the Centrelink or child support, so you mentioned
So
family
family
tax
tax
benefit,
benefit, yeah.
that comes into count, that gets counted
Yes.
for the mortgage applications. How is that looked at? Is that looked like a normal
So
income or?
So we've got child support and family tax benefit that they look at as non-taxable income. So they use whatever the amount that goes into your account is what they can use. With child support, we do need to show that it's been going into your bank account for 6 months at a minimum. And then we pair that with a statement and we can use that income. For single parent income, we can use this, but only one lender uses that at the moment. And that's the same, it's added as non-taxable income.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes a really, really big chunk to the loan. Yeah.
That's amazing. I never thought that that would be considered, but I suppose it is a regular payment, and
Yeah.
the government does tend to be relatively reliable.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so, the child support potentially, I see how that 6 month comes in, as that can be for some a bit of an unreliable payment. So that's got to be evidenced over at least 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. So if you have 1 week out of the 6 months where it was a little bit less, then that's usually fine, but it's got to be fairly consistent over that time for the bank to be able to use it towards the loan.
Lovely. Great. Good to know. And so I'm just thinking, with looking at financing this shared home, have you come across any challenges that mums might come up against, and how can they prepare for them?
I believe, probably just going back to what we said before about the solicitor, is I know
Mhm.
I keep talking about that, but it really is a super important point. And the other things to just think about are, again, just when you have the idea and you speak to your friend about it, really maybe give them a few months or, however amount of time you think is right. But just to really think about it, is this right for me? Is this right for my friend? And maybe go away, think about it separately, because it is a big commitment to go into buying a home together. It doesn't mean it can't be done, but yeah, it's just you've really got to have a think about, is this something that you want to go into for the next however many years? If one of you gets another partner, is that going to cause issues? If you want to sell the house early, but yeah, again, that's all things to talk to the solicitor about, to have it all written out in contract so that when it comes time, it's not the end of a friendship, it's just, selling a home. Yeah.
Absolutely valid points there. And I suppose just thinking, reflecting on a conversation thus far, the sitting down and really contemplating, if everything does fall apart, especially using the option two of being responsible for financing the loan in regards to how the banks are looking at you, is can I afford this? I
Yeah.
find often it's, and this is not financial, definitely not financial advice, but just from my own experience and often friends' experiences, it's a lot harder to actually, the banks look at your repayments or how much you can repay in a lot more scrupulous way. So often, you can service a loan quite well, and then you
Yeah.
want to refinance that loan, and it's like, well, no, you can't afford it, but you already
Yes.
are repaying it. So
Yes.
potentially, you may feel that you'd be just fine. But it is something that needs to be well and truly set down and reflected upon,
Yes,
so you don't
definitely.
find yourself in a position where you do have to sell that family home just because now you cannot repay. Which again, it may not be such a bad thing with the prices the way they're on. Again, I am not a
Yeah.
financial advisor. I'm just like, I'm trying to apply the scenario to me, but yeah, no, it's a concept that it's an exciting concept. I haven't heard of this till recently, and to hear that it is gaining momentum, it's good to hear that there is an opportunity for this, and
Yeah, it
that
is. It's really exciting. And if it can help yourself and your friend out of a position where you might be paying rent for the next 10 years because, on a single income paying rent, it will be really hard to save a deposit.
Mhm.
Not saying it can't be done, but it does make it a lot harder. So if it's going to get you out of a situation, if it will help you even for 5 years, and you both decide it's time to sell the house, it is a good option to look into.
Okay, so let's talk practicalities. If a mum is keen on this idea, what's the first step that she should take today?
So the first step would definitely be looking at your borrowing capacity, which is something that I can help you with. So
Fantastic.
I am a broker at Liberty Warners Bay. So the first step would be just a phone call between myself and the applicant, just to talk about what your plans are. We talk about income, the kind of house you're looking at purchasing, and then we would just start off with an email request. So getting some pay slips, finding out how many dependents you have, stuff like that. And then it's about 24 to 48 hours for me to get back to you with the borrowing capacity. I would probably look at first buying the house on your own. If your friend had their documents ready, then buying the house on their own and then buying it together. So we can look at all three options and see how that fits. The next option, once you have the numbers down, would be to see your solicitor, which again is someone that we can recommend as well.
That's fantastic. And I wonder, with all that wonderful service that you do, what's the cost associated with it? How do you get remunerated? I'm sure many people, I mean, I know because I've worked with you.
Yeah.
And I've covered this question many times in the Vine, but I really, want to drive that across so that it's quite transparent.
Yeah.
Mums that are potentially listening to this podcast and going, "Oh, I could do that, but could I even afford to have my capacity looked at?"
Yeah. So some brokers do charge a fee. I don't. So we are free to look at your borrowing capacity. The only place that we get paid is if your loan goes ahead, we get a commission from the lender. So they basically work out the amount of interest that they're going to receive from your loan, and then we get paid out of that. So there isn't any cost to use us. It'll be the same as if you went straight to the lender.
That's amazing. And so, do you have preference? Do like some of them pay you more than the others?
No, we don't. So under Liberty, we get the same commission under all lenders. So some brokers, I believe, they might have incentives to go to certain banks, but we don't.
That is brilliant to know. And I kind of, again, knew that as well, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there to make sure it's crystal
Yeah.
clear. And so, obviously, the link to your website and any sort of information about your services will include in the show notes so that the listeners can contact you directly.
Yeah.
But also, you are one of the beautiful advisors that's in the Vine currently. The Vine, for those that are listening for the first time, is the single mum group community on Facebook. And you are in there every week on a Tuesday answering any questions that might come up.
Yeah.
And we're really grateful for that. You knowledge on tap.
Yeah. Really enjoy being in there too. It's yeah, it's awesome.
Brilliant.
Hope I can be in there for a lot longer to come.
We look forward to having you. It's been definitely valuable to have you there. Now, are there any other ways potentially, as we wrap this up? I know we've talked about the mommune, getting a loan with a friend, mortgage with a friend, the different types that potentially this loan can be structured. Is there any other possible ways we could get our foot into that market? Is there any way that we can, make this
So
dream
there
come
are
true?
there are two other options. The first would be if your parents are able to go guarantor on the loan. Now, this wouldn't lower the loan amount that you would need, but it does mean that you won't be needing as much of a deposit or a deposit at all for the property. So
Oh,
if you could use your parents' property as guarantor, it means that, yeah, you won't need a deposit to go towards it, which is great.
amazing. No
Yeah,
deposit at
so
all?
yeah, so it depends on if your parents don't have a loan against their property at the moment. It will depend on the figures in that, but we can let you know if it's a small deposit or no deposit required. And that's also a conversation that we would have with you. And then we'd also have a conversation with the parents as well, just to make
Oh,
sure they
damn, you better tell
understand
him.
what's going to it.
No, I'm joking.
Maybe not. So, yeah, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page and no one's being forced into anything. And then the second option is if your parents weren't able to go guarantor, there is the single parent scheme, which means you would need a 2% deposit plus any cost for your solicitor, which is usually around the $2,000 to $3,000 mark, which is a great, so that's a government scheme. It is a good option, but again, it still means that because you don't need that deposit, you still need to be able to afford more of the loan because you're not putting as much towards it.
Oh,
But yeah, both good options to look into.
Fantastic. And they would still consider the equity of the house or the worth of the house and everything else in how they allocate the funds and how much you can borrow.
Yes,
Amazing.
definitely.
And just to end on a high, if you could give single mums one piece of advice about home ownership, what would that be?
I would say don't think that it's not a possibility for you. I know it can be really daunting, but just ask the question. Go and see a broker, hopefully me or another one. But just ask the question and don't be afraid to ask any questions you think might be silly because they're not. We've heard it all before. And if you don't ask, you won't know the answer to it, which is how anyone finds information about anything. We've all got to ask the question to get more knowledge about it. So I'd say that's the best place to start. Yeah.
And well, Sarah, thank you so much. You've shared so many insights today. You've definitely made me a lot more enthusiastic. I've pretty much crossed myself off the list. And I've been sort of sitting on the sidelines listening to you give answers to the mums within the group, thinking, you know what, like I own my own business, my income is very sporadic, and there's all these factors that sort of come in, and I've literally just crossed myself off the list. But having a chat with you today really kind of has given me a little bit of hope and a bit of an oomph in that department.
Yeah.
So
That's the hope, definitely, that no one crosses themselves off the list before they ask the question. Definitely.
that's I'm glad that you've been able to bring back that hope to me and hopefully to others
Yeah.
as well.
Awesome.
It can feel overwhelming, absolutely, but you've helped to break it down into practical, achievable steps, and for that, I am grateful. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing you or hearing from you in the Vine every Tuesday. And yeah, thank you for being a guest today.
Me too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for joining us today for another uplifting and guiding chat with one of our guests. For all the links mentioned in this episode, please see the show notes or visit the full episode write-up on beanstalkmums.com.au. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow us and leave us up to a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. That's a terrific way to support us, absolutely cost-free. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for upcoming guests or topics that you'd like us to cover on the next episode, please leave us a comment here or head over to our webpage beanstalkmums.com.au/topics/podcast and leave us a voicemail there on a very cute little widget. If you are not already following us on social media, we are Beanstalk Mums on all platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok and Pinterest. And on all of those platforms, we explore the ups and downs of being a single mum in today's world. We uplift and support you on your journey, providing you with a community of your own through the Single Mum Vine on Facebook. And of course, our website holds an extensive library of articles written by single mums for single mums on topics that make our life happier, easier, and healthier. If you haven't yet subscribed to our Beanstalk newsletter, that's a great free way of connecting with us fortnightly. The newsletter includes podcast summaries, newest articles published that month, spotlights on specific businesses that we have vetted just for you, as well as little PDF gifts from worksheets, checklists, planners, journals, and any other tools that may help you to thrive in this single mum life. So just follow the link in the show notes to sign up. Thank you once again for joining me for this episode, and I look forward to chatting to you and bringing you our next guest the following month. Take care.